design review panel. Very quickly, just want to confirm we've got myself, Donald Khan, Ms. Ra, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Yusufero representing the design review panel with us tonight. A few housekeeping things before we get started. We need to review the minutes from the May 12th, 2021 meeting. I assume the panel members have had a chance to look at this. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 12th meeting?
No.
This is Hyun. I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have two projects to present tonight. As a way of an opening statement for the benefit of the presenters and any members of the community who might be attending the meeting. Baltimore County Council established the design review panel with subtitle 2, Part 1, Section 32-4203. The DRP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process of reviewing development plans. The objectives for the DRP assessment include spatial, visual, functional relationships to the topographic characteristics, natural and built features of the site, as well as surrounding features. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes guidelines, plans, and architectural principles from the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies and/or master plans, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the county council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. Issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management and traffic regulations do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development plan review process. The panel consists of up to 9 members. All are professional and practical knowledge in the matters of the design. For the purpose of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member of the panel shall be recorded in the minutes and shall be an open record and available along with documents submitted by the presenter for inspection and copying by the public. There will be an opportunity for the community to offer comments and suggestions at the conclusion of the applicant's presentation. During the public input portion of the meeting, use the chat feature to let county staff know if you want to speak. If you are speaking on behalf of a community group, you will get 5 minutes. Individuals speaking for themselves are allotted 2 minutes. As I said earlier, the panel's recommendations are advisory on the hearing officer and the various county agencies. With that, our first presentation tonight is a follow-up presentation for 1610 East Joppa Road in Towson, Maryland, which is an Arby's restaurant. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the developer and our presenter.
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
yes, we're mute. We were muted, now we're not. Good evening, everybody. This is Stu Darling with Colbert Mass Rosenfeld. I'm sitting here with Carla Ryan, and we have been the main 2 people working on this project, along with our landscape architect, Mason Campbell, in the office as well. We are back from the May 12th DRP meeting. That was our first go round with this project, and we've received comments at that time, and we responded to them and took them very, very much to heart, and we think we've come back with a version of this site that we think will be acceptable to you and meet with your approval. So let's get started, I guess, with the slides, Martha, and we can get into this project. So the first page is a repeat from the first version. It's just a general front view of the typical Arby's store in their color scheme. The second page, we did add a couple of comments to this page. One with respect to the previous design review panel meeting, and also the bottom paragraph has some additional information with respect to building code classifications and type of structure that we're going to be building here with some EPIS finishes and aluminum storefront windows and doors. Exterior finishes would be a combination of brick and EPIS that we'll see later in the slides for the architectural part of the project. Next slide is a slide that kind of outlines very quickly, in bullet point fashion, the major changes that we made to the plan, and we'll see these as we start getting into the site plans and rendered landscape plans. We took to heart the parking along the east property line, and when we look at the plans, the east property line is going to be towards the top of the page, north is going to be towards the left, west will be towards the bottom, and south will be Joppa Road. So the angle parking is along the eastern property line, and we did adjust the angle on that parking, and which adjusted the one-way traffic pattern to serve those parking spaces. We'll see that in the upcoming slides. We made a major change to the building location. We pushed it back. It's fairly well in line with the existing bank building on 1608 East Joppa. You'll see that. That allowed us to provide a patio area in front of the building, between the building and the driveway for the front parking spaces along East Joppa. That area was revised also to eliminate a space to create larger islands on either side of that parking bay. Our handicap spaces were relocated from the eastern property line where they were with the existing building and where we had kept them with the first version. But based on comment, felt like it was a good comment to move them to that location along East Joppa. We've again increased the landscape areas between our property and 1608, the drive-through lane, and also between the eastern side parking spaces and the drive-through entrance area, where we also provided a pedestrian walkway from the spaces in the rear of the lot to allow for more safe pedestrian access from those rear parking spaces to an entrance door on the east side of the building. Again, those parking spaces in the back were also reconfigured to provide perpendicular parking and a two-way drive aisle, which simplifies the circulation pattern for the whole site. It's kind of an unusual site where the two sites are working together side by side with multiple entrances off of East Joppa Road that they share. And then the last item I'll point out on this page has to do with the monument sign. We relocated that from its location, which was towards the eastern property line, which would have impacted an existing tree that we felt like we should save based on comments from the community, and moved it to the other side of that right-in entrance off of East Joppa Road. And we feel it's actually a better location for visibility for traffic along East Joppa, moving in a easterly to westerly traffic pattern, especially. So that's just kind of a quick run through on some of the major changes that we made on the plan. You can go to the next slide, Laura. Thank you. So this is one from before. This one is important just to spend a moment on, just to reiterate that our project, even though the property is somewhat irregularly shaped, the rear part or the farthest part of the property away from East Joppa, that long rectangle where the opening is essentially unchanged with this project. And we're really focused on considering the property area, just the front part that fronts on East Joppa, to that back property line that kind of where the opening is to the rear property. And that's about 0.77 acres of total land area, right, that we're trying to, that is affected by the redevelopment. You can move to the next one, Martha. Thank you. This is just some slides from the original presentation of different properties along East Joppa, what's around us. There is development all around us. Gas station across the street. The old Pizza Hut is the building, the site that we're going to redevelop into the Arby's. And there is some views of the curb cuts that are there today onto East Joppa from the site. Next slide. Yeah, this one shows the bank next to us, shows the SunTrust signage, shows the sidewalk along East Joppa with the grass strip between the pavement and the sidewalk. That's going to continue across our property frontage as well. We are going to do some improvements to the entrances to provide a colored concrete stamping for the crosswalk across the actual aprons, provide detectable warning surfaces for the curb aprons, for across, so the people understand what they're approaching an entrance, they will know by those detectable warning strips. The gas station across the street is shown on this slide as well. And you can see that Joppa Road has 2 lanes in each direction with a center lane that's shared by both directions of traffic for turning movements. Okay, next slide. This is a site plan of the existing conditions. Again, you can see the perpendicular parking and handicap spaces along the easterly property line. You can see the right and only entrance that's closest to the easterly property line. There's parking along East Joppa before you get to a shared 2-way or 1-way in, 1-way out entrance in the middle of the 2 properties. You see the old Pizza Hut building. The configuration in the rear of the site was somewhat different than what we're doing. And the dumpster location and the angled parking that once served the Pizza Hut is being replaced by the drive-through lane. There's an easement that they share for ingress egress down the center of the 2 sites that allows both sites to get to that middle entrance location to get in and out of the site. Okay, next slide. So here's a site and landscape plan. I think we have an enlargement on the next slide. It's also kind of does show overall the circulation pattern. We've really, because we've added a considerable amount, and it's about 2,100 square feet of additional pervious areas with this new layout. We've gained some additional areas to plant, and we've put many more larger trees around the site to help provide shade, and we easily meet our planning unit requirement with this planting plan. And we did submit a later version of this plan whereby a couple of the smaller minor deciduous trees have been replaced with majors. And again, that was based on us working with the community on trying to provide a landscape plan vision that he would be happy with. And I think he's pretty happy with where we've come to with the landscape planning plan. Next slide. Yeah, this is just a blow up of that really shows the main site redevelopment area. You can see the location of the old building versus where the new one is, the drive-through lane with the stacking requirements met. A lot of the landscaping is the main focus of this plan, and I think will be once it grows into place. We've got the dumpster relocated, and we also tweaked the angle on the dumpster a little bit. There was some concern about access to the dumpster, so we adjusted the angle of the dumpster pad itself and the enclosure, and we did modify and massage that curb line to try to give the truck access to that dumpster more readily. I would say, let's go to the next slide. This shows that based on the parking requirement of 16 per 1,000 square feet, since this is a restaurant, we were required 37 spaces. We were able to achieve that right on the number with the latest layout, and 2 handicap spaces as well. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a more stripped down version of the site plan to kind of help to understand the traffic circulation for this property. It's a little bit different than the original existing condition because the Pizza Hut that was on this lot was not a drive-through type facility. This is. So we're gonna not change any of the existing ingress egress points along the frontage of the property or the neighboring bank site that that we share entrances with. Again, we have the right in at the easterly side of the site that we're going to keep, and that brings you people in as a one-way pattern, and the angled spaces kind of help maintain that one-way pattern feel. as vehicles that either enter the drive-through lane or bypass that and continue straight to the north, they have the option of either going straight into that rear area where there's a large parking area where they can go and park if they need to, or they can turn around and come back out. And then they would make a movement towards the west into that double bay of parking that has a two-way traffic pattern for vehicles going to those parking spaces. And then you can continue to go across, I guess that's north of the bank, and make a right or a left actually to go either to the bank or to the exit right out only entrance or exit point at the westerly part of the site, overall site. They could actually turn across the bank and go easterly back towards the center of the site and get across the face of our building. If they decided they missed the drive-through lane and wanted to get to it, they could come around the long way and get there as well on site and not have to go back onto East Joppa.
And that's actually where they would go if they were making a left turn onto East Joppa Road.
Right, that's right. If they wanted to make a left, they'd have to use that central in and out at entrance point, access point. Okay, next slide, please. So here's a rendered version of the landscape plan. Again, there's a couple trees on this actual version. We did submit a later version after the ability to disperse it that had additional major trees shown. The two, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Marta. Yeah, there you go. That you can see along the drive-through lane and then also along the easterly property line where there was previously a couple minors. We did upgrade those to majors, and again, that was part of the discussions that we had back and forth with the community rep, and we tried to accommodate him with that. And again, our planning units are well above our requirement, so I feel comfortable that once we get into the detailed drawings in phase 2 with Jim Herman, this is a good place to start with our landscape plan, and I think we'll be pretty close to this as a final version when it's all said and done. This slide also shows the red colored stamped brick concrete or concrete in a brick type pattern that we intend to install at the two entrances, the central one, which is the in and out, and also the easterly one, which is the right into the Arby's portion of the overall site. That will again highlight those crosswalks for pedestrians and also vehicles as they approach that. Next slide, please. And that's just a blow up of the previous slide. Again, you can see the older. This is the old version with the smaller trees along the. There you go. There it is. Thank you, Marta. That one is. We've got a transformer behind the building. We've got the menu board and all of those things there that we want to try and provide some plantings around. There's a planting strip between the drive-through lane and the double row parking in the back. And you can see in the sandy color is the walkway we've added to provide access for those rear parking spaces to get to the entrance of the Arby's on the easterly side of the building. It also shows the dumpster pad pretty well there as well. It's a double, one for recycles, one for trash. The double dumpster in the back there. Okay. This is an enlargement along the frontage of the property. It shows the plantings that are proposed. It shows the sign. The community rep really wanted us to add some additional shrubberies along that way to provide some screenage from any headlights in the East Joppa from cars parking along that front parking row, which we did that. We also show the walkway, the concrete walkway access from pedestrians walking along East Joppa to walk right to the front door. Using the handicapped accessible route from East Joppa to the front door to get to the patio area, which will have some outside tables, and we'll have the bike rack located up there as well near the building, the trash receptacles. And we intend to have a railing that's going to enclose that area except for where you would walk along that crosshatched area from the parking or East Joppa Road to get to that front door. So we think we've achieved a good improvement along the front of the building with that patio area. The previous iteration of this plan had very little area outside of that door, and by pushing the building back and creating that patio area. I think we've got a much safer pedestrian circulation area there for both the handicapped parking spaces and pedestrians along the road that want to come to the Arby's. Next slide, please. This is an enlargement again. Yeah, that was an enlargement of the rear part of the site. This is a section kind of looking from East Joppa, looking into the site on the easterly side of the site. You can see the angled parking on the side, the easterly property line side with the 18-foot drive lane. There's a pedestrian walkway from the rear, double bay of parking. Then you have the drive-through lane. Then you have the concrete walk as you enter the building there, going from east to west across the slide from right to left. And there'll be that landscape strip between our property and the property to the east, which is 1614 East Joppa. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is again is just a tabulation of the planning units required and proposed. And as you can see, we are well above the requirement at this time. Next slide. Okay, now we're getting into slides that were presented as part of the first DRP. This is architectural elevations. It shows coloring. If I guess if Robert wanted to chime in with anything here, he could. I believe he's on now. I see him on the list there.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Robert.
These rendered elevations haven't changed from the original meeting. We can go to the next slide where they get into a little more blown up version of it. Again, this just goes through the original corporate colors and finishes that are on the building. The majority of the brick wainscoting and the brick accents at the major points of entry to the building, the front elevation, which this is. And as you can see, the two side portions where the side entrance is and where the side drive-through is, they both are also accented with the brick. You could go to the next slide. We go from the front right to the back. That's our rear walk-in cooler. Again, still the accents of the brick wainscoting going around. If we could go to the next slide. And these are the both side elevations, both the drive-through side, the drive-through elevation, which is on the lower portion of the sheet, and the non-drive-through, which is on the upper portion of the sheet, accented by the brick wainscoting throughout the building. And again, the brick accent at the entrance with the RB sign over it. And on the drive-through side, again, the bricks wainscoting throughout the building and the brick accent at the drive-through elevation itself. You could go to the next slide, please. Just a blow up of the actual finishes that are listed on the drawings, the actual specs and colors for the record. The next slide, please. Again, the coded elements of the original elevation, so that all of it is in the record for what the finishes are and where the brick, where the ethos, where they are on the building, and the aluminum accents as far as the banding, the red banding that goes around the building. Next slide, please. All the exterior accent lighting, actually some of the interior shown on here, but for the reference of this, this was for the wall sconces and the emergency exit lights that are wrapped around the building, where their location and what the actual fixture is. Next slide, please. This was just a calculation of the existing gross building area for the original Pizza Hut, which you could see the outline of the original Pizza Hut and the footprint of the new building. So yes, we are drastically reducing the size of the building, but obviously we're adding the drive-through component to the building, hence the coverage that we have to add for the drive-through elements. But these are the actual bulk differences. Again, the proposed building is 2326. The existing is 4406. The gross square footage of the cooler, the new cooler is 222, and the existing is 167. But the overall new, excuse me, is coming down considerably square footage wise. Next slide, please. This was a graphic we developed from the comment that as far as the shielding and of the rooftop units. It's a little hard to see without blowing it up more, but you have to be a considerable length away, and I will actually bring it up on my screen so I can read it. A considerable length away to be able to see the units. The top section is to get the perspective. If your eyes are 5 feet above the ground, you'd have to be 215 feet away to see the units from the front. And from the side of the building, again, with your eyes at 5 feet, you'd have to be 50 feet away. Or if your eyes were at 6 feet, you'd have to be at 46 feet away to see the top of the rooftop units. If you go to the next site, the next page, there you go. These are the details of the standard signage. This is the RB sign that you see on the elevations, and these are the mounting details and the actual colors from the manufacturers. Next, please. This is the lighting layout for the same sign. Next, please.
Excuse me, this is John Domena.
Sure.
Since most of the comments in the prior that came from the prior meeting have been covered, and from what I could tell, it doesn't appear the rest of the presentation has changed from the original. And I would suggest we just go ahead and conclude your presentation unless there's something new that we haven't seen before.
No, nothing has changed. You're correct. You're 100% correct, sir. I have no problem with that. We could get back to the site plan.
In that case, do you have anything else you want to add, or we can go on and move to the rest of the presentation? Discussion.
Oh, hey, yeah, this is Stu again. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a couple quick things that I know were raised as comments in the first meeting, and they are the following. One was stormwater management. Again, I think Robert, as he stated, the footprint is getting much smaller, and we're able to add a considerable amount of pervious areas that we're going to landscape, which should help reduce the RCN for the overall site and hopefully have a positive impact on the existing stormwater management facilities that are in place. There are two there now. One is located and straddles the central area of the site, straddles both properties. It's a shared stormwater management underground facility. There's another one in the rear area that we're not really changing right now, so there's not really much to say about that one. But again, we're going to be reusing the on-site existing inlets, adding inlets where we need to, tying them into the existing ones, and have those drain to the underground stormwater facility. And again, we believe with the reduced impervious areas here, we will be able to have these existing facilities function for stormwater management. Secondly, I wanted to just touch real quickly on the lighting. We did submit later after the fact, again, my apologies, a lighting photometric that I believe Martha does have. And it indicates there we go, there it is. It indicates various fixtures of LED types, both building mounted and pole mounted around the site. We have fixture count, photometric foot candle numbers all across the site. And this is something that'll be reviewed by Jim Herman as part of the overall lighting and landscaping plan. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, I know there was a comment about curves along the easterly property line. We are not changing the location of the existing curb on our property. It's going to remain in the same horizontal location. We are cutting off a little bit as you approach East Joppa because we don't need it anymore. And there is a 10-foot right of way that straddles 5 feet on our property, 5 feet on the property of 1614, to allow 1614 to basically come to our property line with their driveway in and out off of East Joppa. There is a curb that starts behind at about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about the 6th space back where there's a curb with a light pole, an old light pole that sits right there that joins from our property to the common property line. And then that curb runs in a north-south direction towards the rear of the property of 1614. It kind of creates the island that we're planting our trees in and doing our landscaping in on our property to the property line, so that there's a curb separation that's created by the curb on our property and the one to the east. So I just wanted to touch on those things because they were specific comments from the previous meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Marta, do you want to read the staff report?
Sure, thank you. And John, we don't have any community speakers or any other speakers that registered. I just would like to check very quickly with Brett and Emre and Jen. Do we have any requests through chat?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you. So I will go ahead and start the staff report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the staff report is based on comprehensive manual of development policies. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Based on comprehensive manual of development policies, Baltimore County landscape manual, in Baltimore County master plan. In terms of site design, staff recommends approval of the site design subject to the following conditions. Number one, provide more detailed circulation diagram that clearly shows all vehicle circulation throughout the site and all directional signage locations. Consider a better layout for the proposed handicapped parking. The current proposed location at the entrance of the site, the entrance to the building, and the drive-through exit poses unsafe condition. Number two, clearly label on the plan the physical separation between the subject property and the property adjacent to the east. In terms of architectural design form and image, staff recommends approval of the architectural design form and image. In terms of open space and landscape design, staff recommends approval, and we just have one condition: provide specific plant material to be used for the proposed landscaping. In regards to street parking and circulation, staff recommends approval of the pedestrian circulation subject to the following condition. Consider a better layout for the proposed handicapped parking. The current proposed location at the entrance to the site, the entrance to the building, and the drive-through exit poses unsafe conditions. In terms of vehicular circulation, staff recommends approval of street parking and circulation subject to the following conditions. Provide more detailed circulation diagrams that clearly shows all vehicle circulation throughout the site and all directional signage locations. Consider a better layout for the proposed handicap parking, the current proposed location at the entrance to the site, the entrance to the building, and the drive-through exit with unsafe condition. In terms of signage and lighting, staff recommends approval of the proposed signage. Staff was unable to recommend approval of the lighting based on the following. At the time of the submission, a lighting plan showing all exterior locations of the light fixtures wasn't submitted, so condition is that lighting plan showing all exterior locations of the light fixture must be provided to make proper assessment. And that concludes our stuff.
Okay, thank you, Marta. With that, I am going to ask Mr. Yusufaro to have the first set of comments from the panel.
Thank you very much, Chairman Demetta, and good evening. My name is Joseph Yusufaro, and I, by trade, am a civil site engineer. So I do have a few comments just to note. So number one, I did review the initial submission from May, the May DRP meeting compared to where we are today. And I would like to say it has come a long way, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. So nice job to the entire design team. Could someone mute their phone? There's a lot of feedback. Thank you. Very, very pleased with how it turned out. I think from an overall customer experience standpoint, this layout functions much better. You have the isolated drive-through, you have parking that is kind of away from the building, and you have nice landscaping to soften the experience. So overall, I'd like to compliment the team. My only comment relates to the staff report that was just looked at, and as it relates to the handicap parking. And I do and design a lot of quick serve restaurants, and customers over the years learn the most efficient way in and out of the site. Recognizing Joppa Road is a fairly busy road, 2 lanes in each direction with a center lane. I would think that most customers would come in from, I'm going to say top. So if north is left, call it westbound in the right the topmost entrance. And those customers would either get in the drive-through lane, or if they chose dine in, they'd park in the angled spaces and walk into the building. When the customers would leave, they would either get their food in the drive-through and kind of bear right to go either out left or right, or if they were dine in from the angled spaces, they would, I think, circulate the building towards the back, come around, and then exit. So I think that the handicap spaces along the front are the optimal spaces, because there's going to be the least amount of traffic at that front drive aisle. And I think that from a safety perspective, that is the best location, as the developer and engineer have shown. So they're my comments, but overall, I think it looked really nice and much better from the initial submission. Thank you.
Don,
Thank you, Mr. Issacar.
Don,
Yes.
it's Jennifer. And before we move on, I'd like Joe to clarify what he just said. So are you saying, Joe, if a car is coming from the west and they have to use the shared drive aisle, the shared entrance to get into the site, because they cannot do it from the eastern entrance, that entrance is a right in only?
Yep.
They can't turn left in there. So if a car had to come in and they wanted to get to the drive-through from the west, they'd have to immediately make a left in and then immediately make a right.
Yes, I thank you, Jennifer, for clarifying. So that is, perhaps I got my directions mixed up, but north, I believe, is to the left of the page. East is to the top, west is to the bottom. So if a customer was driving westbound on Joppa Road from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, they would go in the right in. If a customer was driving from the bottom of the page from the west to the east, I do agree that they would need to take a left into the shared entrance, which is at the bottom of the page, and then drive across the front, which are basically, next to the handicap spaces, and then either park or get in the drive-through. My comment about customers learn the easiest way to get in was more so that I would think customers would figure out that the right in would be the easiest way to get into the site. as you're driving from the top of the page to the bottom, and they make the right in. I also looked at alternative handicap spaces, and I think the only other option would be somewhere mid-block on those angled spaces, perhaps up from the striped area. And I think that there's going to be much more traffic, whether it's drive-through or one-way, in that area than in the front.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Mr. Khan.
Thank you. I agree with most of what Joe just said and what the applicant has provided. I think two questions. Coming out of the drive-in, I'm going to have to turn to the right to exit the site and confront incoming traffic, which may be going to the bank or may be going to the restaurant. So I see that whole area as some concern in terms of traffic crossing each other in different directions. And then the other question is, as you come around behind the building, from the arrows that are on here, it appears that the proposed exit is to go all the way around the bank building to go through an exit. There's no indication that they were going to go through that common corridor area between the two buildings. And I'd like that explained because, again, it seems like there's both at the back of the building and at the front of the building, there's a terrific cross-traffic circumstance. But we should be, as staff had recommended, it should be clear to the driver where they're to exit and exit safely, particularly coming from the back of the building.
Yeah, this is Stu with Colbert Mats. The bank building, as you can see on this slide, it has an angled parking space set up that works well with the one-way traffic pattern coming straight down the center. We didn't want to change their existing historical parking layout to create a two-way traffic pattern there. We do have enough actual physical space. We held a 22-foot wide drive aisle from our curb at the drive-through lane to the edge of those parking spaces. So we left enough room, but for vehicles that would be going, I guess, south towards East Joppa from the back of the building, they would not be able to use any of those angled parking spaces the way they are now. They'd have to be changed to a perpendicular type of a layout. And we have not approached the bank about making any changes to their historical layout for parking. So that's what vehicles, I think, that were using the Pizza Hut space, they went around the building and got to the right out at the bottom of the sheet, or came back around the face of the bank and got to the central driveway cut to go east or west.
Right, but I think if you don't want them going back along between the buildings, then there should be some signage that discourages that.
Yeah,
we do have a do not enter sign. I don't know if you can see it. It's on the corner of our drive-through area. So we have a do not enter that would be facing out. So any cars trying to make that left turn into that one way would see that do not enter.
yeah, we've added several directional signs around the site to try to get the vehicles to locations that they want to get to.
I don't know. I see the do not enter sign until they've already made that turn. So you might look at the location of that. You set it up.
Yeah, I think the option that we have left in that area, because we opened it up to get access to the dumpster enclosure, is to maybe do some markings on the pavement, and that might help to alert people to not make that left turn as well.
I just think that's a concern. I think otherwise it's, and I agree, I think that is ultimately the best location for the handicap, but I'm concerned about the broad circulation that needs to be very clearly marked. And that's it.
The only thing, if I may just add that I'm not trying to dispute anything, but the movement to that shared center access, they're similar to what's existing right now.
Correct.
So
Yes.
there's a previous learned experience there. So hopefully this won't be that much of a learning curve compared to what is there currently.
And then I just wanted to add one thing. This is Carla Ryan. Donald, you mentioned the potential conflict with the traffic exiting the drive-through lane. So I guess one benefit here is that they are not merging in with traffic coming from behind them. So the only traffic, potential traffic conflict is from cars entering the site, which would be fully in front of the vehicle. And then the other improvement here is that we did push the building back by about 16 to 18 feet. So you have a much greater distance than what we had in the first go around for those cars to be able to see each other and to react.
Right, Carl, I agree. I think it's an improvement.
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, as long as people aren't coming down that center aisle, it's clearer now the way it is because all the cars are, coming in at an angle. It's clear when you change it the way you are. But anyway, those are.
And to continue with Carla's comment, the building is further back than the existing condition today.
Okay, Donald, thank you. Ms. Ra, your comments, please.
Sure. So thank you for the presentation, and I do think, as the other panel members have said, it's improved a lot compared to the last rendition. I do have a few concerns. Traffic circulation, Mr. Khan has already mentioned. It just seems like it's not very clear, and I'm concerned about potential accidents that might take place and so on. So that is a concern. And another thing is just the customer experience. If you look at the site plan, there's a lot more landscaping and it seems quite nice, but actually the part of the building where it's surrounded by landscaping is mostly back of the house and kitchen and no windows. And the customers really cannot look out that way. And so it seems like a missed opportunity in that sense. Also the patio area, I wonder if it could be either moved to the back somehow, or if the drive-through even has to be, I'm not sure if it's possible, but does the drive-through have to be in the back of the site? So what I'm wondering is if it could almost just be flipped. That would take care of the safety issue for the handicap parking, or the handicap parking maybe could even go to the back, so that you don't have to cross traffic at all. You could just go through the island and then into the entrance. And then you could have a patio where you look out to the vegetation and the landscaping on the site. And then the site beyond as well has a lot of landscaping. And it could be quite nice, actually, I think, as a customer. So those are just some comments that I had. Biggest thing being the vehicular safety and customer experience.
Thank you. Mr. Sharma.
Good evening. I hope my voice is there now. My apology to all for inconvenience for this technical difficulty. I think I concur with the recommendations that we received from the staff of planning department, specifically about the conditional approval of the better layout of the circulation. It's a little not clear, so more better signage and better the circulation diagram, that would help. But I do agree with the conditional approval with that. One thing I would like to mention, the last time maybe my comment was misunderstood. The motorists egressing from the joint use ingress and egress, the traffic side, traffic or the transportation in the Baltimore County, they need to look into this, that if making a left turn while egressing is safe. So that was my comment.
Okay, thank you. In terms of my comments, I think I am in agreement with Mr. Yusufaro. I also looked at this site somewhat diligently to look about the handicap parking, and I've come to the conclusion over the years that handicap parking at all fast food restaurants with drive-through facilities always end up being a little bit of a challenge. I actually remember going to the Pizza Hut here when my children were much younger, and the confusion between the Pizza Hut lot and the adjacent bank clearly was an acquired knowledge, because once you've experienced it once, you realize it was a little convoluted. But I do think the location the developer ended up with the handicap parking is a good and probably the best. Other locations are going to be crossing probably similar amounts of traffic, just in a different location on the site. With that, unless there's any other comments from the panel, Joe, since you're the civil engineer and you had the most comments, I'm going to ask you first if you'd be willing to make a motion on this project.
Sure, I would be happy to make a motion on the project. Let me just get my staff report in order here. So I would, hearing the panel's comments about, can we, Mr. Ryle's comments about flipping the drive-through from, the back to the front. I think there's certain requirements that drive-throughs have with regards to stacking, the driver picking up the food, and certain stacking requirements. So I don't think that there's a way to really modify significantly what's been done. I do agree with some of the panel members that the exit, once customers pick up their food at the drive-through, is a little wide open. And I would suggest that the island next to the pickup window be extended some to channelize that a little bit more, perhaps to the end of the building, and then the customers could leave. So I think with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project, conditioned upon the staff report that is dated July 14th, 2021, and the comments within, with the exception of the handicap spaces being shifted to somewhere else on site, and keeping the handicap spaces as they are shown on the developer site plan. And then number 2 would be to extend the landscape island further down towards Joppa Road, call it another 10 feet beyond the window. And that would be my motion.
And I do think, picking up on what comments that I think other people, I think we do need to request, and we'd like you to consider adding to the motion, Joseph, that they incorporate some additional signage specifically in the area of the dumpster that clearly directs the patrons that, they are going to be driving further west on Joppa Road or on the parking lot to exit on the other side of the bank. I think the developer said possibly putting some sort of roadway markings.
Thank you, Mr. Demena. And yes, I would like to add condition number 3, which is the developer to add appropriate customer signage at the back of the site to identify the exit to the customers. And the intent of that would be to work with staff, planning staff, to resolve the comment and, email any of the panel members for any guidance on that, but not come back for another meeting.
Thank you, Joseph. Anyone on the panel want to second that emotion?
I'll second that now.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay, with that, the motion carries. Mr. Bosch, Mr. Grimaldi, Mr. Darley, thank you very much for your presentation. Good luck with this project.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your
Yes,
time.
Thank you
very much
all.
to everyone. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night.
Chairman Demena?
Yes, sir.
This is Joseph Yusufero again. So for project number 2, I was part of the project, and I would like to recuse myself.
Very well. Thank you for alerting us to that. Fortunately, we still have a quorum. So with that, I would like to ask our developer for the Towson Row project, the York Building and parking garage signs. You may begin your presentation.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good evening. My name is Gustavo Arango. I'm the project director in charge of the Towson Row project, and I will give the presentation tonight. Marta, I assume you are on the clicker. If you can move to the next page, please. So this page is your typical detail page. It's basically describing the scope of the work, in which there are technically 2 signs. One of the signs is a combine of 2 signs. One is a multi-tenant cabinet sign, and the other one is a double-sided parking P circle sign, in which we're going to get the details further down. And the second one is the name The York, which is the name of the apartment building, and this one is facing south. So why don't we scroll some pages down? Let's go to page 6 of 13, please, just to locate the project, or the building within the project. This is the building that is located at the corner of Towson Town Boulevard and York Road. The signs in question, why don't we probably scroll two down so we can see them better. So the signs in question are one sign facing south. In previous DRP meetings, we came and we had signs on the south, but they were not specifically in the correct location, and they were not specific to the graphics as this one circled. So we just wanted to come back and clarify this particular one. So this one that says the York, I also wanted to clarify that we made a slight error. It's not centered in the building. It is on the westernmost center of the building. So we will revise 2 sheets, this one and 2 sheets down, which will locate the sign in the correct location. But it's the same sign, same size sign, and same artwork. Everything is the same. It's just that it was incorrectly shown in the center. It is actually, again, on the leftmost elevation, basically a little south of that, because it's not above the building. It's on the right there. It's on that corner of the building. So that elevation, as you can see, the south elevation, we have the square footage of the sign is approximately 50 square feet on the south side, and the sign on the east is approximately 24 square feet. Scroll 1 down, please. In the next slide, you can see both signs in question. The one on the left is the one facing south. The one on the right is the one facing east. We had also this one, but we just had it as a P, and we're adding some tenant names specific to the retailers that are on this building, not Whole Foods, just the retailers that are underneath of Whole Foods. The next slide is page number 10. This also, as I was explaining earlier, is in the incorrect. This will also be revised. This will be shifted to the leftmost side of the south elevation. But again, it's the same size, same artwork. Everything is the same. It's just the location is going to be shifted. And then page 11 is again a location of the parking and the tenant blade sign in question. We talked about square footage. And then when we get to page 12 is specifically the York sign details with colors, sizes, and previously we talked about square foot. Oh, it also says square footage. So it gives you that clarification. And then on the last page 13 is the parking sign, which the P with the tenant names underneath. And that is the end of my presentation.
Gustavo, Jennifer,
Hey, Jennifer.
do you maybe want to explain why you're putting tenant signs under the P on York Road?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. So the idea is to familiarize the customer with the location of the retail that they're going to be visiting. So if they're going to be visiting some of the tenants that are located in this building, then it'll make it easier for them to find the location and to park at that correct parking location. Because as you know, there are two parking areas in this project. There's one located under this building, the York building, which is a one level, approximately 50 spaces, that is specific to service the retail on this building. And then there is a parking garage on the adjacent building. It's a 3-level parking garage that will service Whole Foods and will service some residential as well. So the purpose of this is to clarify and make the customer experience better as they approach and come shop at the center and visit the center to know where they are going.
Okay, with that, I'll start with Mr. Khan.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can we read our staff report? And
Sorry about that, Marta.
that's okay. And we don't have any speakers. I would like to double check with Emre and Brad.
Yes, there's no any one lip on the chat.
And Brad? Okay.
Yeah, I don't see anybody.
So it looks like we don't have any speakers, any community speakers for this project, and I will just go over our staff report. So the staff report was prepared based on Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies, Baltimore County Landscape Manual, Baltimore County Master Plan, and the Charleston Road Development Guidelines as approved May 21, 2015. In terms of signage materials, staff recommends approval of the signage materials subject to the following conditions. Number 1, provide dimensions for all proposed details. Number 2, provide height dimensions showing the distance from the bottom of the parking tenant sign to the street level. The elevation shows the distance that appears too low to the pedestrian level. And in terms of illumination, staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. Number 1, directional signs for parking, directories, and building mounted signs shall be internally illuminated. And number 2, effort should be made to only illuminate graphic surfaces, background, and letterings of the sign while limiting light spillover to other adjacent uses, buildings, pedestrians, and vehicles, and to keep night sky light pollution to a minimum. And this concludes our.
Thank you, Marta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Donald, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think the comments from the staff are right on as far as I'm concerned. I think because of the steepness of York Road at that point, I think it is critical that the bottom of the sign height be carefully determined, and whether that clearance is fully adequate. But I think that otherwise, I think the staff comments dealing with the lighting and the types of signage, I think are exactly what we would expect.
Okay. Thank you, Donald. Mr. Sharma.
So to me, it's pretty straightforward. I've had a couple of thoughts, but they are already been addressed about LED lighting and light not spilling around. So I'm good.
Okay. Ms. Ra.
I don't have any additional comments. Thank you.
Okay. I have a question for the development team. The York sign on the south elevation. I don't have a problem with the sign. I'm curious as to the location. Only in that, have you really looked to see how visible it's going to be when you're south on York Road with the sign being that far west off the corner? The site immediately south of the bypass is fairly wooded. And just curious if you looked at the site, being that far up, I'm concerned people aren't going to really see the sign till they're very close to the intersection. And at which point they're going to have to turn, it's up high. So I guess my question is, have you really looked at it from that standpoint of its visibility on the ground? The building is topped out now, and I only wish I had looked at it the other day when I was driving up York Road, but I didn't have the presence of mind to do that.
So Mr. Demena, thank you for the comment. I do know that we have a blade sign on York Road that is it was already approved in a previous DRP, and that is so that view from, if you're coming up and down the York corridor, you'll see that sign. There's also a sign on if you go to the next page, that's looking at the east elevation, there is a sign over the lobby of the residential, also on York Road. I think they wanted to put something on the other side of the building to give a different perspective of the building.
Okay. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
I would move that we approve this presentation, subject to the comments of the staff.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Signage as submitted has been approved along with the staff comments. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation. Doubly appreciate its brevity.
Have a good night, everybody.
With that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, this is Brett. Will the comments be addressed via staff? Will they have to coordinate with the planning staff?
Brett, it's a conditional approval. Yes.
Oh, okay.
With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.